I mean, one of the things we actually do is, as a fund, is we share some of our carry with all of our founders. So all of our founders actually get some of our carry, which makes them a part owner of the fund and actually a part owner of everyone else. And it's just a way of sending the message that it's not management versus shareholders. It's not founders versus investors.
Wow.
We are all in this together. This is a journey, hopefully a successful 5, 6, 10, 15-year journey to build transformative companies. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's never a straight line. There's always, as they call it, the messy middle. And I think that's the message that we send. And it's the message we send by being a sort of a part of that, what you just described from the get-go, whatever's needed, product, strategy, etc., and having sort of that one team message.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. We're in the venture capital world, and today we meet Robert Cohen, managing partner of Benson Oak Ventures, an early-stage VC fund based in Israel focused on B2C, digital SMB, and all things related to the passion economy, what it dubs passionware. Benson Oak has deployed capital across Europe, the United States, and Israel for 20 years, and Robert enjoys a deep understanding of the technology market for consumers and small businesses, including operational experience in building global brands and developing and scaling business models, including one of the most successful venture capital investments in consumer security, AVG. A dual US-Israeli citizen, Robert is originally from Philadelphia, spent 18 years in Prague before moving to Israel almost a decade ago. Robert Cohen, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm in a beautiful office. The Promo office is one of the portfolio companies for Benson Oak, where you're the managing partner. Fascinating journey, amazing fund, focusing on B2C and B2SMB in the Israel ecosystem. I think out of maybe 100 VCs that I got to speak with, this is the first time I get to speak with somebody.
We're the crazy ones.
Exactly. And then we'll dive into the craziness in a second. But start by telling me a little bit about yourself and your own personal journey leading to us sitting here today in Ramat HaChayal.
Yeah. Well, it's great to be here. As I said, I've listened to a number of your podcasts and really enjoyed it. So I've lived in Israel almost 10 years now, about 9 years. I lived before that in Prague for 18 years. And I'm American originally from Philadelphia, proud Philadelphia sports fan. And I moved to Prague for 6 weeks and I stayed 18 years. And that was in the mid-90s, right after the transformation from communism to capitalism. And I was part of Benson Oak at that time, which was this local investment banking boutique. And then in the early 2000s, I had this, again, crazy idea that we should start investing. And so we stumbled into a great deal. And I say that honestly, we stumbled into AVG, the antivirus company in the early 2000s.
In Prague?
In Prague. It's in Brno. Brno is 2 hours east of Prague, this small little town. It's a lot of tech there. And they had done something crazy again, we keep using that word crazy, but I guess the word fits, especially when you're in Israel. In the 90s, they gave software away for free, which now today seems commonplace, but at the time was unheard of. So when we stumbled across AVG, they had 25 million free users and a management team that wasn't 100% sure what to do with that. So we got involved. We actually ended up buying the entire company. Again, these are different days back then. And my partner and I were involved helping management. We brought in other investors, Intel Capital, TA Associates. And then 9 years later, I had a great opportunity to go back in as part of management and with basically a mandate to help the CEO with strategy and do acquisitions and enable us to go public. And so I ended up doing 5 deals in 12 months and 2 of them were in Israel. So that brought me to Israel. First time professionally. I've been here as a kid. I went to college, came here every year for vacation, but this was my first professional opportunity to come to Israel. I was coming here so often because I was integrating 150 Israelis. We bought our mobile team here. We bought our platform. Ended up renting a place here. Was here very often. My kids were much younger. And we then ended up on the verge of going public. And it was Christmas Day, 2011. And I was sitting on the beach. My whole family was there. It was 25 degrees, great weather. Flying back to Prague the next day. Looked at our phone and saw it's -5 in Prague. Drinking wine outside. I'm like, what are we doing? Let's just come here, and take a year off and come here. So we said, we'll do that. We said, okay, a year doesn't make sense. We'll do 2 years. And that was 9 years ago.
That was 9 years ago.
Yeah. And fell in love with the place. I always was in love with Israel. But, for me as someone who's passionate about investing in startups, it just made sense to be here. And the rest is almost history. Still here.
So was your investment in AVG really your entrance to investing in startups and being a part of this ecosystem of hyper growth and trying to see if you can make an impact with a small management team?
Just described it perfectly. That was exactly what it was. Yeah.
And so how does that, looking at what you're doing now, how does that passion transition into your work today?
So one of the things that we actually, I think our biggest value at AVG was this was a team of 20 people in this little town in Brno, and they had accidentally fell into this big market. And we kept saying, there's no reason a small company in Brno cannot be a global leader. Now, that's not something you ever have to say in Israel. But back in those days, in 2004, 2005 in Czech, you did have to say that. And eventually we brought in a team that thought like that. One of the amazing things about Israel is that mindset is there from the get-go, right? We're, by definition, thinking we can be a global leader in startups here. And so I think bringing that bringing that experience from actually seeing it happen in a unusual situation, a company in Brno becoming a global leader, and then coming here and seeing it in person and seeing these amazing entrepreneurs who have amazing ideas, but also the ability to scale beyond. It fits, first of all, what I enjoy to do, and it also fits the skill set that I've developed from B2C and even B to SMB. AVG is considered a big consumer brand, but it's not known. Half of our revenue came from SMBs at the time. Wow. And so, one thing led to another and started investing. And actually, it's what brought us eventually to Promo as one of our first investments when we got to Israel. Tell me a little bit about the high-level strategy of B2C or B2SMB. And then specifically within the Israeli ecosystem, which is not a common occurrence, to either meet a company that is doing B2C in Israel or a VC that is investing and has a strategy behind this specific vertical. Yeah, so our specific strategy is to invest in B2C, B2SMB, in what I call passionware, which is a term that we've dubbed around the tools and services that drive the passion economy. And that's both on the infrastructure side, enabling anybody to start, scale, and grow a business, and then also on the distribution side. And of course, the world has changed in the last 10 years, even the last 5 years, in terms of SMBs, from Shopify, all the tools from Amazon, to really, you could be anywhere and you can punch above your weight. And so the reason we put those together, B2C, SMB, and passionware, is they all start from very similar beginnings in terms of coming up with an idea, coming up with being able to build something very quickly. And thanks to the tools we have today, being able to, again, punch above your weight, reach a global audience, and scale very quickly. And most importantly, to have a very light footprint. I think there's a lot of corporate products that try to dumb themselves down into the consumer world. And consumers, whether you're an SMB or a consumer, you want something that's easy to use, intuitive. And that's where the entrepreneurs of today who are focused on consumer and SMB. And so we focus our investments anywhere from early stage to, let's say, post-product stage, and really help our companies. And we only invest in things that we understand. So by definition, if we can't add value, we don't invest. Doesn't mean we have to add value. I'm happy if someone else does it all, but we have to, in order to understand something to invest in it, we have to be able to add value. And that's specifically in the area of product, which again doesn't mean coding, doesn't mean designing, but being a mirror to entrepreneurs in terms of how they're thinking about product, having very specific ideas on where we think things can really scale, and then helping with business models, market experience with marketplace, experience with freemium model from AVG, experience with SaaS models, and then helping the organization build, especially for first-time founders where you're doing so many different things, just helping design options to how to scale the team, to helping with hiring, all the things that can basically delay the growth is from a very early stage. So that's our product. I always like to talk about the Benson Oak product, because it's not just investing, here's some money, show up for quarterly board meetings. It's invest, add value wherever we can. Different founders need different things, help with those specific areas. And then when we see things are working, we like to double down or even triple down, as the case may be. And that means not just, go raise another round from someone else, run around New York, Tel Aviv, wherever, raise money, and we'll do our pro rata. It means we'll actually lead the next round. And then that makes it much easier for the entrepreneur to raise the rest. When somebody leads, more people follow. So a number of our companies, we've done that, where we'll invest early, double down, and even potentially triple down. And then, of course, when companies get their Series B and beyond, then that's when we hope other people will come in and do much more. So I'd love to hear some examples of specifically with Benson Oak and how you've been working with some specific companies in your portfolio. But before that, why is it irregular that I'm sitting next to somebody in the Israel ecosystem that is really excited about B2C or passionware? I love this term now. Keep repeating it. Why is it not common? Why didn't I meet something like this before? It's a good question. I think, it's part of the way Israel has developed. First of all, Israeli ecosystem started with what's called deep tech, B2B. That was just the what people understood better. That was where the early exits came from. And a lot of early exits then turned into people putting money back into the ecosystem. And so when it was cyber or a lot of these B2B things, that's just where it started. And I think also, I'm totally generalizing, and as we often do, but a lot of Israeli startups in let's say the 90s, early 2000 or later, they built to a certain level and their desire was to sell, right? That was, we built a great product, get some great clients, and then you maybe sell 70, 80, 90. There's nothing wrong with that. First-time founder, bang some good check, go for the next one. That's fine. But to really do B2C and SMB, it's harder to do that. Your aspiration from the get-go is to build something big. There's of course examples where Facebook will swoop in and interrupt a journey because they're doing something that bothers them. But most B2C and SMB companies are building something much bigger that can scale up. And I think what's changed there is you had companies like Wix, Fiverr, and then most recently Monday.com, SimilarWeb. A lot of these companies, even WalkMe, that started from an SMB mindset, also in some cases moved to corporate. But even now, like eToro and other companies that Lemonade that have a consumer mindset, and their mindset is not just B2C and B2SMB, it's we're going to build a big global brand. And that's what excites me. I want to invest in things that can be big, that can conquer the world, and go for those big gains.
So what are some examples from your own portfolio where you've been following, your entrepreneurs, working with them to reach those similar heights?
So where we are now, promo.com is a good one. I know you will hopefully have one with the CEO and founder Tom Moore, but this is an amazing story of a company that started as B2C.
Yeah.
Built actually a user base around the world, hundreds of millions of eyeballs. Wasn't obvious how to monetize that. Took that secret sauce, and I use the word creative genius to describe Tom. And when you meet him, you'll see those are not just words. And basically turned that secret sauce of a B2C platform and what he had been able to enable users to create stuff and turned it into promo, which became basically invented a new market, which was around video marketing for SMBs. 2016, video was just starting. It was very difficult for SMBs or anyone to create videos. You had to print out some tutorial. You didn't have the budget. You had to do drag and drop. You had to do this. You had one video and you couldn't change it. You were done.
Yeah.
And promo, we did a deal with Get Images, and promo basically was able to create a market, which has been replicated by others now. And now we're moving even beyond that, which is enabling SMBs to really promote themselves, right? It's not just about the video, it's about the promotion. And so this company went very quickly from zero to tens of millions of dollars of annual revenue. And again, inventing a new market around a different way of thinking. Instead of, okay, here's a better way to make a video, we're actually going to make the video for you. And that's what promo has done. And now if you're an SMB, you don't have the time to make the video. You just want the video. And now I get to the good stuff, which is promote my business. And that, I think, what thing that promo unleashed is what we see across, I call promo a passionware business, because at the end of the day, I'm not in the business, if I'm an SMB, of making videos. I'm not even in the business of doing ads. I'm in the business of scaling my business, getting users and generating revenue. The videos, the ads, sure, all the other things that go into today's business, from analytics to intercom to everything else, those are just tools that enable me to scale. And those are the exciting things, I think, around this, what we call passionware. Shopify is the great example. Shopify is there and enables people to grow their business. So that's something I think Israeli companies are now seeing and scaling much faster. And promo's, one of the best examples, if not the best, that I've seen.
And so is it common to speak to somebody who's a lead investor in a company of one of the rounds and be so involved in the day-to-day of the company and be so involved with the CEO and be really in on this strategy and understanding really where the company is headed?
It's becoming more, not common, but there are more examples of it. I think, Andreessen Horowitz doesn't do it to the level we did, but they built an entire organization in the US around helping founders. And I think that's really become part and parcel of the whole VC ecosystem and how we evolve, right? VCs are not just it can't just be about money. There's, as we know, so much money in the world. Money's become the commodity. The value add has become the thing that differentiates. And there's different ways of adding value. Our ways is a specific way. We don't invest in 30 companies. We wouldn't necessarily be able to do what we do. We invest in a very small number of companies. And some companies need help here, maybe just opening a Rolodex or just having the benefit of experience. Some companies need more assistance or not even need it, want more assistance. And it's just and I think it's also being part of the team, right? We're all in the same boat. One of the things we actually do is, as a fund, is we share some of our carry with all of our founders. So all of our founders actually get some of our carry, which makes them a part owner of the fund and actually a part owner of everyone else. And it's just a way of sending the message that it's not management versus shareholders. It's not founders versus investors.
Wow.
We are all in this together. This is a journey, hopefully a successful 5, 6, 10, 15-year journey to build transformative companies. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. It's never a straight line. There's always, as they call it, the messy middle. And I think that's the message that we send. And it's the message we send by being a sort of a part of that, what you just described from the get-go, whatever's needed, product, strategy, etc., and having sort of that one team message. And we don't do it alone. We invest with other investors. We're not usually the sole investor.
Right.
It's happened, but in the recent fund, we're generally investing in great co-investors. We take a similar view on B2C, SMB, can add value in other ways. And I think, to repeat it, it's not just about money anymore. VCs have to be able to add value 100%. To enable their founders to grow. Because, to use the word crazy again, it's a little bit crazy to start a startup, right? Yeah. You all read about the great exits, but at the end of the day, you're always selling, you're always out there fundraising, recruiting. So you need that support, and you need that, half my job sometimes is to just listen to founders, be able to rant towards me as to the problems they're going through every day and be there.
Sure.
So, you add value in different ways.
And so if we were going back to the trend that you're alluding to in the Israel ecosystem, and we're seeing these big players like Monday and Wix and Fiverr, etc., they're going. Do you see it actually happening year over year in the Israel ecosystem, either with the founders that you're meeting or with the, whether it's the younger founders, the older founders? Are we moving as an ecosystem more towards a B2C or B2SMB mindset that is something that is possible, not just cyber and AI?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's still going to be, and we see it every day, amazing cyber companies, amazing AI companies. But the amount of, first of all, there's more money that's available to B2C and B2SMB. There just wasn't that much money available. A lot of the companies that we've led, they probably wouldn't have been able to get the adequate fundraising if someone like us didn't come in and lead. Now you're seeing a lot more. From Aleph to Insight, they're all getting involved in this. I think we're one of the only ones that really just only focuses on that. We don't do anything outside that, but it's coming more and more. And I think as more and more companies succeed, as more and more founders get experience, as some of these companies are now going public, they're having very large teams that are seeing what it is like to scale a business to these levels. You'll get more and more deal flow. I mean, the amount of deals I saw in B2C 5 years ago in a year is probably equal to what I'm seeing in a month right now.
Yeah. Right. And so by focusing, does that mean that you're developing a specialization within the B2C or B2SMB, any specific thesis that you're able to then take with you to your investments, or as you're helping your Israeli founders think more critically about the global market as they're trying to scale their business? Because I guess most of them are not selling to the Israeli market, right? They're selling abroad.
Although one of the advantages of investing in B2C is you do get to use Israel as a little bit of an early petri dish. So a lot of our companies, I would say 4 or 5 of our companies, first revenue was in Israel, which is unusual. A lot of it in the old time, you couldn't even put the product in Hebrew. Didn't put the product in Hebrew. It's out in Israel. So a number of our companies are generating revenue here. And it's great because first of all, it shows the hustle, it shows the ability, it shows product market fit for what at the end of the day is a very similar market in terms of mindset than anywhere else. And so that's something that for us is, I think it's just another benefit of doing B2C and SMB.
So do you usually find that the experimentation on the petri dish that we have here in Israel, that's a good indicator of the success later on? Because my intuition was that the consumer behavior is so drastically different between where we are and where the rest of the world is, that perhaps it doesn't actually show the right intention of either the user acquisition or how the
user acquisition. Of course, it's a different game. I think in terms of product market fit and the value prop, I think it's a very good indication. Maybe not 100% in different markets, but especially for the American market, I think it actually is a very good fit. For, of course, scaling, it's much different, right? You can do much more in Israel with less than you can anywhere else, especially if you're Israeli, and it depends on the specific product. So in terms of user acquisition and scale and growth, it's a completely different ballgame. But from my point of view, in terms of investing in a team and seeing their ability to put a product out there that people want, they're willing to pay for, that early hustle to generate the early revenue, that's important. Because we don't, to your question about thesis, we have certain thesis about some things. We're very big in blockchain, crypto. We look at that as the sort of underlying layer of passionware. So we do have NFTs, I think we posted a blog on that where I think NFTs are going to be almost a layer of every company at some point in the future. But we also are truly amazed at some of the things we see. So we take an open mind and want to meet entrepreneurs who are in B2C and B2SMB are thinking differently and are attacking a problem a different way. For B2SMB, we have a slightly simple thesis, which is everything a big company can do, a small company will be able to do. And it's just about providing them that tool. Promo is a great example. Companies have been doing video ads for 50 years. It's nothing new, television ads, etc. But SMBs, basically until 2016 when promo launched, were unable to do that. When promo came, with a different way of doing it to enable something that's already been done before. So for B to SMB, we look at things that are clear market cases of things that have been done before, but being done in a different way, specifically to B to SMB or prosumer. For consumer, there's things that we're surprised at almost every day when we get new deal flow and different ways of thinking. And that's what's exciting. It's really being disruptive, transformative, and what Israelis are great at, which is thinking differently about how to tackle a problem.
I love it. Robert, take me back a little bit to your childhood. I want to get to know you better. Before you invested in AVG, before Benson Oak, you mentioned you're big into sports, grew up in the US. What really fascinates you as a kid? Is it the financial markets? Is it innovation, or what's fascinated you?
So sports is my passion, and I've always been into sports from my earliest age. And one of the things I did early on was collect sport trading cards.
Really?
Baseball cards. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't do it to make money. I haven't sold it. I still have those cards actually. And I did it with my brother. In fact, I've got him back into it now. And I forgot about it for years. And I recently got back into it a few years ago when the market started to take off. And also I have kids. My kids are athletes. And so they're in their teens, and I wanted them to get into it also for the financial aspect. So I've gotten back into it. And it's even applicable to one of my startups, which we'll save that for another story. But so sports for me as a kid, playing sports, watching sports. And now actually, not to be too obsessed with investing, but now I'm actually looking at a lot of things that are in sports tech, because now if I can combine making money, investing in sports, and enjoying sports, that for me is just heaven. I'm done.
I love it. And what inspires you today in your day-to-day work or personal life?
What inspires me? Obviously my passion is it's my job to invest and to make money for my investors, but it really is my passion. I love it. I tell people all the time, if you're not doing what you love, you shouldn't do it. So for me, that's the passionate thing, but it's also a balance, right? I think one of the important things in life, and some of my gray hair that I have, is to be balanced, right? Not to be obsessed with the work and first of all, do something you enjoy, but also find all the other things that are outside work. For me, that's family, that's sports, that's hobbies, and that's traveling in the good old days when we were able to do that.
Yeah. And what are the 3 words we use to describe yourself?
3 words. I actually come up with the 3 words. I have to remember them. So one is focus. I would say I'm a very focused person. I think that's something I've not always been that way, but I'm focused in my investment thesis, and I'm focused in sort of what I want to do every day, both personally and professionally. I would say another word is well balanced. I would actually use that word, that it's not only about work, but it's about finding that time. I'll say it because I think it's actually useful for the audience. I'm into meditation, which has actually enabled me to balance.
Yes.
And I learned it from I was listening to all these podcasts, and every successful person meditated. I'm like, maybe I should try this meditation thing. So for me, it just helps balance. And I'd say the 3rd word is optimistic. I think, to invest in startups, almost by definition, you need to be optimistic. You need to believe tomorrow is going to be better than the day before. And even when there's a problem, you just fight through it because you believe at the end of the day, things are going to be better. And so I think, and especially, frankly, living in Israel, the Middle East, you need to be optimistic, right? It's what it's all about. So optimism is a word that I would highlight.
Robert, thank you so much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed your podcast. It's great to do it myself.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.